This is one of the rare interviews where I'm forgetting to think of a question while the guest is answering because I need to ask a question. So now I still do have a question. And this is so personal, dealing with these kind of things. And now that my daughter is in her teens, it's even more difficult because uh, I expect her to be rebellious uh, to some extent. Uh, but when she's rebelling in a manner that girls rebel, then I do not know how to deal with it, is what I just realized when you were speaking. So she will not speak for a day or two or whatever. She'll be on her phone and I'll be on my phone. Unfortunately, I'm as addicted to the phone as she is. So we have a problem. When she finds time for me, I'm on the phone. And when I find time for her, she's on the phone. On those kind of days, it's even more difficult. But I have a question here from Bijal. The question is, see, as a person, I live in Thane and I joined advertising after having an education in engineering. Okay. And I think all people in advertising are from every other field but language. And somehow we are struggling initially, but we find our peace and happiness in communication and then we continue. I learned to take responsibility for myself and I pushed myself to become the person that I am. Even this comfort that I'm speaking to you all and thinking that I'm equal to you in terms of speaking has had to be learned after a long time, a lot of soul searching, that I'm not good enough in my work or the way I am, the way I look, or the way I come across, or whatever. I'm talking about a journey of 20, 25, 30 years, whatever, from our say teenage to the moment we start facing the world. Now, having been a writer, I read a lot of books and uh, I referred to Ayn Rand in my last interview also, last podcast also. Ayn Rand was somebody who spoke about selfishness and about working very hard to get what you get kind of thought, and you deserve the world, those kind of. And I imbibed a lot of it. I worked very hard. I thought I was the best in the world. I kept working at it and with a lot of happiness. There was no, like, you also grow very selfish, very, this single-mindedness had its faults. I was quite rude to people who weren't up to my standard of intellectual understanding or whatever. But ये पूरा एक process था. I kept growing like this, and I've reached a point where I'm generally happy. I'm not saying that what I did was right, but that is, I think all people who are young are a little brash at times, or at least the people that I met were. Abhi ka generation I find is far more. I love them. I think all parents are useless and all kids are gods. If I have to make an open-ended statement, they are so complete in what they know and the way they are behaving. Parents are, as parents, I find very few are like Mital is. We kind of try to impose our understanding. Now, this question is about imposition. If a parent like Bunty, I'm trying to not be so, but I'm saying I have worked very hard to reach where I have, and I think there is no alternative to it. So there are a lot of things you have to do that you don't like to learn something, to be equal to the task or whatever that is your goal is at some point. Now when I heard Midal, I said कि यार क्यों इतना मेहनत करने की जरूरत नहीं थी अपने ऊपर भी नहीं. One could have been kinder and this and that, but समझ आने में टाइम लगता है. आज अच्छा लग रहा है. Maybe I have outrun that phase also, grown out of it. So my question to you, how does one deal with this? How does this learning be transferred? Does it need to be transferred? One. Second is, how do you tell them it is important to sacrifice something to get something, or all these things? Or can one be really as hands-free as she's been? It's amazing, but even now when she was talking, I was like, as a parent, she is good. But मैं कभी ऐसा कुछ कर सकता हूँ क्या? I do a lot of stuff. I try and challenge myself. I sit with her and talk. And I, in fact, sit and tell her, look, I am very cheesed about this. I don't know what to do with this. Now you tell me what should be done with this. I put my vulnerability in front. but the kind of effortlessness that she is talking about, rare होगा शायद. My daughter will not even agree to the rare. She will say नहीं नहीं ये सब आप नहीं करते कभी भी नहीं. So my question is, how does one, with I'm also a human being with my own feelings, my own journey, इसको कैसे distance किया जा सकता है, या what is your thought process about, now that you heard both sides of the story, what do you have to say about your POV?
If I understand your question correctly, you're asking that what Mittal is doing is totally coming from her, and I am with my own set of feelings and my own set of past, and my own set of emotions. Right? So I think this is one area where we keep practicing that, which is the place, what is the time when I need to interfere, which is the time when I don't need to interfere. Most of the times, the answer will be that I don't want to interfere. But you are different, your circumstances are different, your children are different. Your observation will tell you that this is the time you probably want to interfere now. And at the right time, if you think it is the time to interfere, you will interfere because you're observing. And when you're observing, something is steady and something is telling you not to observe, not to get inside it. What Mr. is telling is, broadly, we need to live a life wherein we get involved in our own self. If supposedly I have my own set of struggles, maybe what I heard about your life, even before we started this video and after this, overall, I see few past years that are full of struggles. And you were so much involved into your own struggles. You've already lived that life to some extent that you are dealing with your own things. Hence, there is probably not much of interference in child's life.
Yeah.
It is to be by chance for
Yeah.
Otherwise, what would have been a situation? But Mittal had a lot of time on earth when she was the mother, 5-6 years housewife.
Yeah.
She did it deliberately. You know?
Yeah.
So me, I was when my children were growing up to 6 years of age, I was working. I was in a corporate. So for me, I didn't have time, but I always had this feeling that I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
So I go out of the way, spend a couple of hours, something called quality time. Very, I don't know what kind of word. It is a coined word nowadays. We call it a quality time that we need to. So we get into that trap of quality time and stuff. But I think there can be a into yourself. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Please continue.
Yeah. So it is about you shouldn't leave your own journey where you are. You deal with your own struggle. Children are also observing you. That's what they keep doing. And that is why we are able to make judgments. कि ये सही है या ये गलत है for me. Now every child will have a little different judgment from each other. Everybody will probably not settle at the same judgment.
Yeah.
So if you are true to yourself, you are working, going through your own hardship, children are silent observers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that gives them the platform to decide for themselves. So most of the times, my journey of life before starting Godi and after Godi has been that you be what you are.
Yeah.
Don't stretch so much extra because that is stretching off you and this is not going to be a real you.
True.
So this is very important for us that we be ourselves. At the same time, because we are nowadays called conscious parents, we still look at our children. And then we take a conscious call if I really want to interfere or don't want to interfere. to maintain, are aware about it. If we are busy into our life, there has to be we need to have something which is balancing the other side also. Though most of the time we're supposed to be doing nothing, but there will be times when it will be quiet. You just can't be total silent every time. So what she is doing is she is also observing continuously, and most of the time she is taking a call of not interested. But if there is a need, it is okay to sometimes interfere, tell them it is okay. So there has to be a good fine balance between the two.
I think scale manufacturers are not getting enough business because as kids we got thrashed very often.
I missed what you said. Sorry.
I am saying scale manufacturers, wooden scale manufacturers used to get a lot of business because we used to get thrashed a lot. And at school, it was par for the course. If your parents weren't hitting you, you were worried that they didn't love you enough. But on a serious note, I want to bring an example that I resonated with about a friend in the building who was not looked up to by most parents. And in fact, my daughter had a friend whose mother called me and said that she's befriending this girl more often than not. And I would want to tell you that you must try and put a stop to it or something. And I was a little confused because my daughter has been like struggling with getting the same age group kids for a long time till now, say initial few years. So she had got somebody who was just one standard over, and this was the girl who was not looked up to nicely by most parents. Then I just simply told them that, you know what, this is a call that has come to me. You know, auntie doesn't like this girl and this girl doesn't like auntie. They also had a separate problem with each other. So she's told me this. I don't want you to go and fight or think anything about auntie because auntie is taking a call knowingly and she's trying to help me as a parent. But I think you can take your own call. Just be sure that I am also unsure about this girl. She's a little mad. She was doing some insane things also. Like one odd day, she was standing on the edge of the balcony or some nonsense like that. Some police had come to catch what is happening. And those kind of things that also happened. But irrespective of that, I said, you stand by her. She's your friend. And without judging, and I expect you not to bring her angst into your life. Like me, she is also now very gregarious. She goes to all her friends and tries to help them with their problems. And some days I have to literally put a stop to it and say, look, don't superimpose somebody else's problems. In fact, I remember I said a line which was not very good. I said, look, their parents are their problem. You don't, if they are fighting with their parents, you don't bring that fight into our relationship because I have not been fighting with you. I'm trying to be normal. You try to be normal. And she's told me as much. One good thing about you is, okay, even if you're reprimanding me, after an hour or so, we are not, like you're never bothered. You're not dragging the issue again and again. And this is what is happening. And you just told your point. Okay, this is what I think. And you strictly tell it. So these are things. And what I trust to bring in one line, what runs in my head is, I present the truth. This is what I really feel about it. Because there is no textbook for parenting anyways. You don't have these do's and don'ts, and a lot of people that I see have been either indulging too much, which is a fear that I've always had. I think bad citizens are people who had bad parents. I very strongly think about this, people who break the traffic signal or who are pushing and doing things in public which they should not, as normal citizens, they should not. And I think it is only just something that parents should have taken care of, is what I used to think. Of late, I just discussed with her. So even as much as we do some food distribution every Saturday, which Bijal and I were talking about. So we've been doing this without the Saturday thing also. So wherever I saw these guys who walk to Pandharpur, then I'll say, okay, let's go get food for them. We travel somewhere and get a proper thali for them and so that they can eat and stuff like that. So a couple of times she's asked me, "Okay, why are we not giving to this beggar or that person? Or why are you not giving money?" So I try and explain, this is what I think. Then once in a while, even as a young kid, she used to take a call. I feel we should give this person something. Then we used to ask that person, you stand here, we'll go get something for you. So we used to actually take our bike, go get some vada pav or whatever we could get. Or so some things happen automatically. My question to you, a lot of times there is also, now this is not necessarily how I have behaved, but I see a lot of parents indulging their kids in terms of, you said quality time and those terms, which I also don't agree with. What is quality time? Time is time. If you're spending time with them, you better spend time with them. This is good quality time with yourself to start with. So if I'm talking to you and my head is around the job that I had, then I'm not doing justice to you or the job either way. But what is your, how do you deal with parents? You obviously you're running a school. One thing I want to say, Bodhi is such a beautiful name for a school. And how do you deal with parents who are indulgent or who are unable to see your point of view at some point of time? Or are you so lucky that you've got all parents of the ideal kind in your school? This is a question any of you can answer. Neetal, maybe you, because you are very passionate about this educational bit. I love your kid and what he's doing. He reminds me of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you said, not all parents are, they are too preoccupied with their children also.
Yeah.
Forget their life. Nowadays, we have a problem कि parents are preoccupied with children when children do not want them to be. So that is a big challenge we face. So as a school, what we have a policy is that every Saturday we read with parents.
You spend with
So
your
we
parents,
read
with the
a book
parents.
or a art. Sorry.
Yeah, you spend with the parents of the kids every Saturday.
Huh. Every
Okay.
Saturday. So every Saturday, 1 hour, the whole community sits together and reads either an article or a book, and we read together and discuss it. So there is a dialogue. It's a platform where everybody is at the same level. It's not that because I am bringing this article, I will tell you what it says, or I will interpret it the way I want to interpret. So everybody interprets and reflects about what they are reading in their own lives, in their own relationships with themselves, within spouse, children, everything. And
Okay.
then there is a discussion. There the platform is open for discussion. And that's how there is an exchange. And again, this exchange leads to a shift. It has to come from within. Any shift, matlab, we strongly believe that nothing can be taught, as Aurobindo says, nothing can be taught. It is always has to come from within.
Mhm.
So we stick to it. सलाह लेने नहीं जाते हैं, है ना?
Okay.
कोई फायदा नहीं होता है.
बराबर.
So we read, we discuss, and slowly, the unveiling happens, and the parent, we see a shift in the parent. Sometimes for some families, it is couple of sessions, and sometimes for some families, it may take as long as 2 years also.
Oh,
But that shift has to be from within for them. Then it is an understanding which is going to be remaining for life. And as a family, as an individual, as a parent, everybody is benefited. So that's how we work with parents.
okay.
We read, and we read open books. ऐसा नहीं है कि कोई sacred book पढ़ते हैं या last we read discipline your child. I forgot the author. Recently, we read an article on gift of no.
Gift
Uh,
of
no.
uh,
Yeah.
very
So we try and bring in articles and we read, like Bijal is reading with higher grade parents some articles from J. Murthy, letters of J. Krishnamurthy for authority and discipline, I think. I don't know which is the other one she's taken up. But so we read such open articles which are in open forums, which are not like कि सिर्फ मैंने लिखा है, मैंने कहा है, ऐसा नहीं. And then again, it is open for discussion and views and arguments. नहीं ये तो ऐसे बोलते हैं. This doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that in my house. Then the other parent will say, no, it works for me. I read the similar thing last year. I did it in my house with my children, and now I see the shift. Then the other parent will say, yes, I read it last year, but I didn't do it, but I did it recently and now it is working. Or somebody said I did and it is not working. So it is collective group experience that is shared, and then slowly that shift happens for the parents.
nice.